Hello, my fantastic lot. It's Mega Gran here again with another episode from Vintage Beef's Omega servers. Now then, I'm still catching up with what we've been doing since the server opened. And I needed a worm as part of the recipe to make my data book. So you have to use spruce to get the worms because other logs make different types of worms. And oak leaves were another part of the recipe. And once I got everything together, I could make my data book. And this showed everything concerning the animals in the pack, and I'd been wanting to look at this little critter and see what it was. It was a praying mantis, a devil's flower praying mantis. The next thing I needed was nets so that I could capture these little critters. Because nets, you could only capture the small ones, the medium-sized animals. So I needed to make rope. How do you make rope? Well, lots of string. Oh, that mineshaft was going to come in so useful. And we know there's at least one spider spawner in there, so you never know. So back in I went, hoping to come out with at least 8 pieces of string for some nets. And it wasn't very long before I spotted that spider spawner that we heard last time. Well, I didn't want him to come down now, so I quickly blocked it up, made it a bit safer for me to get the string. And I managed to get 16 without too much trouble, and I was out of there. So I just needed some iron nuggets to make the actual rope, which wasn't too expensive really. But then once you got the rope, you needed an iron ingot and a stick for each net. So that was getting quite expensive, I think, if you wanted to store up a lot. But at least I had 10 nets, and I could get this critter that I saw earlier. There we go. Nice. So then I was on a roll and I couldn't stop nabbing these little critters. I found this little critter over here, got my data book out just to confirm what it was. And yes, as I thought, it was a koala, a Queensland koala. We'll have that. Oh my. And a macaw. We'll have that as well. Now these were anteaters, giant anteaters should I say. I was just about to nab those, but another macaw came in sight, so I had that instead. I'm out with Rascal exploring. I got tarantula and I got another praying mantis. Ha ha ha. Another koala. I think that was different from the last one. I'm not quite sure, but I was having it anyway. And then this African wild dog. And then we spotted a spider monkey high up in some mahogany trees. I had to get that. And this terrain wasn't that easy to traverse. So up I went. A bit precarious. I was getting there. I could see it. It was getting closer. Ha ha! Nabbed it. Wonderful. Now, it wasn't long into the game when I started spotting zoos cropping up all around my base. And I suddenly got into a panic thinking I might not have enough space for a zoo if I wanted it here. And I think I did because I quite liked this area. So I thought I'm going to have to put a boundary up. Even if it's a temporary boundary, just to let people know that I intend to build a zoo here. So that's what my next project was. I'd got a load of netherrack from all that digging in the nether. So I decided to put a boundary up, put some signs on it, and make it clear that I wanted to build a zoo here. And I might not have enough claim blocks to claim it all by myself, but I think our combined claims with Smoke and Rascal might work very well. So I started off in this corner. I was wondering what to do across this river, and I thought I should block it off all the way through the river, right down to the riverbed. But then as I was progressing along, I thought, maybe I should leave it open just in case anybody wants to boat through here, because nothing's built as yet. So I was in a bit of a quandary. Do I block it off so nobody can get through? Do I make a little bridge here so people can go under it for now? So after a bit of indecision, I finally decided that I would raise it a bit so people could boat under it, seeing as nothing was built here yet. But I was going to have 1 or 2 aquatic exhibits, so I would need a lot of water in 1 or 2 areas. One of them might be this area. So this is where I started, and it took quite a long time. I had a reasonable sized area in mind, but you don't realise how big areas are until you start, say, putting boundaries around them. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, it took me quite a while, did this. It took me a long while. But I was determined to do it because I wanted an area that we could call our own. So working all night and all day, through sunshine and through rain, I actually got to the point where I could see where I'd started. So with the placement of a few more blocks and a little bit of an adjustment of the start so I could join it on to the end, I had a complete boundary. Oh, that felt good after all that work. And I had my fingers firmly crossed that it was big enough for all the exhibits I wanted. I hadn't really anything definitely planned, but I knew that I wanted to try and incorporate every animal that I could find. So now I needed to put some signs up, so if anybody had any disputes, that they knew where to go. So I thought I'd get my trusty steed to help me with this endeavour. And he was over on this bit of land on the other side of the river, which reminded me I needed to make some bridges as well. I didn't have a name for my horse yet, but he was becoming a very good mate, so I thought I might just call him Matey. I know, a bit lame, isn't it? Well, my horse wasn't lame, so that was good. And I really needed to get him name tagged, because they were going to extinguish all animals every 30 minutes without a name tag to reduce lag on the server. So, and I didn't want to lose Matey, so I'd have to do that. So I put the Waffler Zoo boundary on all the signs, and I put all the signs all around the boundary, so there'd be no mistake. So this is the area I hoped our zoo would cover, and I hope we'd stuff every nook and cranny full of animal exhibits. I used my very limited editing skills to outline the area so you could see it better. Is that a good size for a zoo? I have no idea. I'm sure you'll tell me if it isn't. Now then, we had a few jobbies on the board to try and get sorted, and one very important one was doing an iron farm. And by coincidence, Doc M77, in his first Hermitcraft Series 9 episode, talked about the smallest little iron farm that could be built. So we got right on to that. A 3x3 area is where the golems are going to fall down. So we made that here on this little space just near our base. We had to estimate where blocks were because there wasn't a tutorial. And looking in Doc's video, I sort of counted that there was possibly 5 blocks from where the golems were going to be walking around, where the soul sand was going to be. The zombie was going to be on top of the soul sand to jiggling him up and down so that the villagers would see him intermittently. So that block represented where the soul sand was going to go, because of course we didn't have any soul sand at the moment. Well, we had a little bit, but we needed some more. So that's what we worked off. So if the zombie was going to stand up there, then he needed some space to stand up in. So we had to take the ceiling up quite a bit more. Now then, the pillar end of the villagers' beds needed to be 4 blocks away on the same level as the soul sand. And they were just going to be on 3 sides of the zombie. The next thing we had to suss out was how he got the water to do what it was doing in his video. And it was a bit of a conundrum, because when we placed water down, it went down in the hole, and we didn't need that. We didn't want that to happen. So we experimented for a little bit, trying different things to try and keep this water on the edge of that 3x3. Then we discovered that the stairs were upside down. So I took one out and I turned it the other way around and tried it again. So we knew that a water source block was on here, but it still went in. So what were we doing wrong? So I picked the water up and I tried it in a different place. And that stayed in there. And then I wondered, if we got some water now and put it on the other side of that water, would it stay? And it did. That was a revelation. I didn't know any of that stuff at all. I mean, I copied tutorials, but I never actually put them together. So I had no idea about that. So next we chipped away at the ceiling to make it all the same size as that bit above the zombie's head. So that didn't take too long. And again, just looking at Doc's video, there were 2 sets of trapdoors just above the level of the soul sand. And then there was a space. And then there was another set of trapdoors just above that space. So that's how high it needed to go. On the bottom of each bed, there was a block of glass. Once we got those areas figured out, I turned my attention to the killing room. So we needed to go down. And we worked out that a golem needed to be 16 blocks away from the villagers to enable the villagers to summon another golem. We calculated that if we went down another 15 blocks, with those 5 blocks up there, that'd be 20 blocks away, and that would be more than enough to keep the golems coming at a steady pace. So that's what we did. Now, we'd need to have some hoppers down here and some chests that the hoppers would go into. So we placed the chests just outside where the hoppers would be. And then we had 9 hoppers, which would transfer all the iron into the chest. We hoped. So after placing the chest, I got my hoppers and I placed one into the chest and then another into that hopper that I just placed, and then a third hopper into that hopper, and then the hoppers along the side I placed facing into the hoppers that were down the middle, and those should suck up all the iron from the iron golems, and because of the walls on either side there should be no loss really. Once we got the hoppers in place, it was just a matter of tidying up the outside of the clean room. We had to figure out how to place the lava though, because that wasn't shown in Doc's video. But having made iron farms before, the killing room is more or less the same in them all, I think. We had to open this 3x3 area, of course, so that the golems had a clear path from up top to down here. And then I placed the signs on the second block up from the hoppers. It was a bit of a tight fit in here by then, so I had to make myself a little cosy room to do it from. So then I placed the signs on that side of the room. And then I shifted and placed signs on the side of those. And then I shifted again and placed another load of signs on top of those. So 3 rows of signs. And then I made sure that I filled up that little hole that I'd made. And then out I went. And that bit was nearly done. I just had to place the lava now. So I had to get above the level of those signs to place the lava. So the killing bit wasn't really difficult at all. We decided to remove all the stairs before we put the lava in. For safety reasons, we put a covering up top just so we didn't fall in, because we probably would. So once that was done, and my bucket in hand, I placed the lava in the middle at the back, and I just hoped I'd remembered it all correctly. And it did spread out nicely over the signs. Of course it would, because that's the way you do it. But I still had to go down and just check that it hadn't gone down onto the hoppers. And it was nice to see that space between the lava and the hoppers. Very nice. So next we needed to get the zombie and the villagers in. So we started off with the zombie. And we needed quite a few trapdoors for this. There were 2 sets of trapdoors enclosing the zombie on top of the soul sand. And then there was a space and then another set of trapdoors, I think to keep the zombie in place while it was bobbing up and down on top of the soul sand. One good thing was that we didn't have to mess around with minecarts or rails because we had cages. The cages we used to trap large animals, but we could also get villagers and zombies in them. So the zombie would be in there, stood on top of some soul sand with some water in, bobbing up and down, and that top part would stop it from falling out. So now we just needed to wait to get a zombie and some villagers. In the meantime, I continued to light up the caves around the base, and then had another lucky find, another spider spawner. So I cleared this out, like you do, and wondered how close it was to the other spider spawner I'd found. And it wasn't long with a bit of poking about and lighting up that I found that that other one was just around the corner. So I was getting quite excited at the prospect of an XP farm with 2 cave spider spawners in it. That'd be absolutely fantastic. And I know just the person who might enjoy sorting all that out. So I lit everything up, made everything safe, took as much string as I could as well, then went back to the junction to see exactly how close those spawners were to each other. Another lucky find was a zombie spawner. It took me a little while to find it, like the skelly spawner, because I'm not very good at finding things, but eventually I did. So that was a lucky find. I was quite excited about that as well. So we'd got all the spawners under our base, which was fantastic. So I lit that up and made it safe. And then I got in touch with somebody who knew where we could get some soul sand from. Amber Goddess allowed me to TP to her in a soul sand valley, and that was fantastic as well. So thank you, Amber Goddess, for that. So I got my shovel out and I started shoveling. And I also set home here as well, just in case I needed to come back. Well, you never know when you need some soul sand. So we wasted no time in getting a zombie in a crate. So now we had the soul sand in place and a zombie in a crate. So I placed the crate and opened it up, but there was no zombie. My first thoughts were I'd used the wrong crate, but after looking in my inventory I didn't have another one. After a few inquiries, we learned that ordinary zombies were not compatible with crates. So what we needed was a zombie villager all along. So the next night we went looking for an obliging zombie villager and found one almost immediately, who had his eye on Rascal. But she handled the situation very adeptly, and before you knew it, we had a zombie villager. So we got him in place and then focused on the villagers. Now we thought this was going to be quite tricky because in the video the villagers were balancing on that one block space on top of the beds. So we took away any other blocks in the vicinity, took a deep breath and opened the crate. And lo and behold, he was exactly where he should be. We did find on the last villager that we placed though that I'd pillared up a little bit too close to the villager I was releasing. So I put the crate down, and when I took the block away and a couple of my own blocks, I opened the crate and he seemed to be in place. But as I broke the rest of my blocks, he came down as well. So there needs to be a fair space in between you and the villager. So next we needed to remove the blocks that was covering the lava. So with our little fingers firmly on the shift key, we picked those blocks away, and just a little look over showed us what was in store for the golems. So up I went to remove those blocks around the zombie villager. So this was our moment of truth. Was this going to work? Had we done all this for nothing? Well, we didn't have to wait very long at all. That was the sound of a golem in distress. Unfortunately, it wasn't in distress in this room or in the pit of lava that it was supposed to be, and no other zombies were spawning when it all went quiet. So we had a look around, and Rascal found the culprit just around the corner. And we had a lot of little spaces like this around that room, so we had some work in spawn-proofing it all. And then we had another problem. There was a golem in the room, but he wasn't actually moving towards the zombie. So there was something wrong somewhere. And after a little bit of discussion, we felt that maybe the zombie was a little bit too high for the golem to notice him. So instead of moving the zombie and the villagers down, we decided to put an extra layer on the floor. And it was clear the space between the floor and the soul sand should have been 4 instead of 5. It did get in the way a little bit, that golem, but we managed to push him around where we needed, including over the pit of death. It's a good job he didn't know what was coming. So we put everything back the way it was, making sure the stairs were waterlogged and making sure that the water source behind that was flowing to the edge of the 3x3 square. So everything looked in place now, and we just needed to get rid of this cobblestone that was holding this golem up, which we started off very, very carefully, and Rascal finished it. Very well done. Oof. So were we there yet? Had we done? Was that it? Any more golems to be had? We couldn't see anything. Nothing was happening. And then there it was. Straight in. But we still hadn't finished really. There were a lot of holes around this room and a few golems did spawn in them. So we had to go around and spawn proof all the areas we thought they would spawn in, and a few besides as well. And then one of the golems just stood there and looked at the zombie. He wasn't moving and he wasn't being pushed down the hole. So this was another problem we needed to sort out. So we decided to extend those water traps around the 3x3 area by putting in extra upside down stairs and waterlogging them. And then it was just a matter of getting rid of the golem that was there. One more block to go. It was very precarious. And then he was gone. And we hoped now that that was it. So we went outside the room, closed the door, crossed our fingers and waited. And there it was. And in he went. And that was awesome. That was pretty awesome for us. I think this farm was better suited for outdoors, but we wanted it underground because we didn't want a messy iron farm above. We still had one little thing though that went wrong. Villagers were asleep. There were no golems spawning. And the zombie was gone. We forgot to put a name tag on the zombie. We were old hands at this now, so getting another zombie in the right place was easy peasy. So placing the cage, releasing the zombie, removing the cage, naming the zombie, replacing the trapdoor, replacing the water, and then removing the supporting blocks. we had so many caves around us, we checked the iron farm quite regularly to make sure no iron golems had spawned outside the room. Eventually, they just spawned inside the room because we'd put so many buttons around the outside. Whenever we'd been working around the base, we would pop down to have a look and see what was happening. And it was producing lots of iron. So we're really chuffed with that. Really chuffed. The next little job I did was to build our horses a nice little home. Rascal's was stuck in a hole, and mine was exposed to the elements. So there was a little mound behind the house, and I thought I'd commandeer that. Smorf hadn't got a horse yet, I'm not sure if he would get one, and I wasn't quite sure how many I could fit in here anyway, so we'd have to see. And if he did get a horse, they'd just have to double up. Now, it's always quite satisfying to unpack after a bit of exploring, and our collection of animals and critters was growing, and we would need to decide soon what our first exhibit was going to be. I would like, if I could, to have one of every type of animal or critter in each exhibit. So we had a little bit more capturing to do, but we could still build the enclosure. But I'm really thinking I'd like to do the welcome centre first, and I'm thinking of something quite specific for that. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep on capturing these. So if you had a choice of what your first enclosure was going to be, what would it be? Let me know in the comments below. And if you do let me know, it might be the first enclosure that we do. So, have to sort these out and make sure they're all in the right place. Emperor penguin there. Flamingo, emperor penguins along that line. That's a macaw and I've only got one butterfly. I'll probably go collecting butterflies all at once. So emperor penguins go up there. Macaws go down there. Another emperor penguin up there. butterfly up at the top. There's only one. Let me see. Let's put them all over on that side. So there's a row for each one. I'd have to get some more chests, I think. Bald eagle. I've got some more bald eagles down here, I think. Yep, bald eagle there. Bald eagle there. A kakapo. Let's have a look. Another emperor penguin. Where did I put those? They're up there. Another one. There we go. Tarantula. I've got some tarantulas somewhere. Where have I put those? Flamingo, spider monkey, praying mantis, macaw, koala. Aha! There they are. Excellent. Right, I'll take these 3 nets out, put them next to the capture cages at the bottom. Lovely, lovely jubbly. We're doing really well with our collection. Right then, to finish off, I'm going to see what these 7 vote keys are going to get me. Ooh, somebody's there at the minute. Fae Prince. Hello. Right then. So let's see what we get this time. Oh, you like my skin? Smiley face. Nice. Got 7. I got 5 of them because I'd voted 7 days in a row. That's some kibble. Tranquilizer darts, that's all right. A shovel. Some more kibble. Another shovel. Can I have something else, please? A pick. And some kibble. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because it'll really help support my channel. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Oh, I love that name. Autumn Fawn.